Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, from beautiful Mississauga, Ontario, home of the 2025 Ball Hockey National Championships, otherwise known as the Jack Cup. Coming at you here, Tales with TR, episode 269B. And I'm your host, Terry Ryan Jr. Let's get right into it. Samantha was wondering, well, she wanted to know if I had any hot takes. I haven't really even thought about it, on this season coming up. I haven't. And Samantha, thanks for listening. Samantha's in White Rock, BC. Beautiful spot. I know I say everywhere's beautiful, and I guess I'm not lying. There's something beautiful about everywhere and everybody, I suppose. But White Rock, yes, would appear probably more quote unquote beautiful than Mississauga, Ontario. I like Mississauga. It's convenient for a lot of reasons. It's very industrial, though. It's a lot of people think because Mississauga is a little bit outside Toronto that it might be more scenic. I love Toronto. I really do. It's got a nickname, the Big Smoke. Okay. And I'm told, so I used to think the Big Smoke was because of all the pollution. It didn't make sense to me the more I visited Toronto, because Toronto, like we say in St. John's, Toronto, T-R-O-N-N-O, Toronto. I think Toronto has a lot of trees, a lot of wooded neighborhoods. I like trees. I like trees in a city. Chicago's another one. They're big, big cities with, cool little areas. Some parts, I mean, Toronto's literally, and Chicago literally have beaches on the lake. Not every big city can boast that, but I think there are many areas in Toronto I could easily live. Now, of course, I have Penny Lane. And at once, it was attached to a family. She was we all get along, but you know what I mean? I'm divorced. And BJ's son, Tyson, is all raised and moved on. And I'm happy I'm raising Penny Lane in St. John's, Newfoundland, Mount Pearl, Newfoundland, to be more specific. Newfoundland in general, I wouldn't have moved over there. But a gun to my head, if I had to play professional hockey or a job in the area, whatever it would be, and I had to bring a family in here, it wouldn't be the end of the world. I think Toronto has a lot to give, a lot of really cool little neighborhoods that you could easily raise a family in. Me, I like a happy medium because that's where I'm from, right? That's where I'm from. St. John's isn't exactly a huge metropolis, but in the area, there's 250,000 people, including my little town at Mount Pearl. And on the whole island of Newfoundland, again, I've done no research, but I know the numbers generally. I think there's 600,000 or 700,000 people. Almost half that are in the Avalon Peninsula, 250,000 in around St. John's. I think St. John's proper has, I guess, 125 maybe a little bit more. And you got CBS Paradise, Mount Pearl, Pooch Cove, Tor Bay, Logie Bay, all those areas around there. Anyway, I enjoy that. A little bit of the city, a little bit of the country rolled into one. The house I live in is very much within the city of Mount Pearl. Probably in about 40,000 people on the outskirts of St. John's. But I got a little river out back, got a path at night. I can't hear much hustle bustle. It's one of those. So yeah, what am I getting at? I don't fucking know. But Samantha, thanks for listening. And here's my hot takes. And are these really hot takes? So the first one, I have a hard time thinking Easton Cowan isn't good enough to make the Toronto Maple Leafs. In other words, I think he'll make it, barring something crazy. Now, let's say when I was drafted in 95, there wasn't as many younger players making it. I remember going to camp thinking there's no way I'm going to make this and it was the Canadiens who generally didn't do that. When I was 19, I did make it. I only played 4 games, technically made the team, and had some injury trouble. I don't know what would have ended up happening, but they wanted me to practice at least a little bit with the team as a 19-year-old, and that's what Easton Cowan did last year. Now, my numbers in junior were great numbers. You can look those up in my draft year. 50 fucking snipes, 27 points, I think. Lanks and I came second in playoff scoring, and we didn't even make the finals in my draft year. 18, I had a concussion, a few setbacks. Still, I think I had 70 points in 49 or 50-something games. And then as a 19-year-old, went back to Red Deer after Montreal, and playoffs and regular season combined, I had 32 goals in 33 games. So point is, I scored a lot. Easton Cowan is scoring at an incredible scoring rate. I like scoring at, he's out of junior now, but 2 years in a row led the Memorial Cup in play in scoring. I don't know that that's been done. Same thing in the OHL. His numbers are like Gretzky-like, or like Gretzky-like. His numbers in junior are a shade off of Gretzky-like. Here, I'll just bring him up. Oh, 1 second. Brian Bigger and McGrattan's calling. 1 sec. Okay. I can't remember exactly what I was talking about. Something to do with Easton Cowan, but Brian McGrattan called. So Brian McGrattan, Big Earn, penalty minute king, and we'll talk all about that next week. He's going to be my guest next week. Big Earn was going to be on today, but he's in Calgary. They played cool thing they got going. They got the Battle of Alberta. They do it on the golf course with the alumni guys. So the Oilers playing the Flames or whatever. So it's boys do this every year. Not that I've been involved. I just hear the stories. But Big Earn was going to come on today. He's coming back this way, but he's changed his flight for tomorrow. And we got actually, side note here, I'm going to get back into the Easton Cowan thing. We're going to, I'll announce it soon, but April 8th to 12th, it's going to be myself, Brian McGrattan, Brad May, and maybe Doug Gilmore. I'm not sure on Dougie yet. I'm sure on the first three. And we have like a fantasy camp thing of sorts. It's going to be 4 teams at least. If we get another team, we'll add another, so quote unquote, celebrity, NHL, all-star, whatever. Another legend. Dude's name putting it together is Sebastian Fortier, pro hockey player in the American League a little bit before me, and he lives down in Mexico now, and he's putting these tournaments together. Okay, Penny Lane phone. Sorry, everybody listening. This seems fucked, but I'm here. So yeah, those guys do that anyway, the golf thing. So I'm going to have McGrattan on next week. And yeah, we'll be going. I'll be announcing it soon. It's a fantasy camp of sorts, and we'll be doing it in Cancun in April 8th to the 12th of next year. Now, getting back to it, I say Easton Cowan and people laugh at me, but I don't get it. When I was talking about it, just to put it in perspective, I mean, I was the 8th pick in the world. I told you I had some great stats and everything. And I even at 19, like, it was only a cup of coffee, but at that point, like, not many, the average age of the league was older. I don't know how much older, but it was not insignificant. And it seemed, now people tend to come into the league a little bit earlier. Sometimes, 18, 19-year-olds make it. Like, for example, my year, Brian Berard went first overall. He got sent back to junior, right? Ed Jovanovski, I think. Actually, Berard ended up making it. Sorry. It was talk. I think he got sent back to junior. I don't really think he did. Jovanovski did. He went the year before me. There were a few. Like, it wasn't a guarantee. Even if you went first overall, you were going to make the NHL right away. Not a lot of guys that went like anywhere else just walked into the NHL. There might have been 2 or 3 per draft, and sometimes none. Point being, Cowan just went back to junior for 2 years. Ripped it. Historic numbers. I think I was looking them up. Was I, when Penny Lane phoned? Here we go. I mean, fucking, I have to look at him again and say, geez, because no one really, not nobody, but for a guy that's with the Leafs of all teams, like a lot, here we go, 54 games in 23-24, 96 points. This year, 46 games, 69 points. Then he goes in the playoffs this year, 17 games played in the OHL playoffs, 39 points. Last year, 18 games, 34 points. So he gets well over he gets about 1.5 points per game in the regular season. And then in the playoffs, this is what the Leafs of all teams are looking for. He amps it up. Like I said, 18 games. Last year, 2 years ago, 34 points playoffs, 17 games, 39 points. And at the Memorial Cup, he's been the leading scorer outside of that for 2 years in a row. This guy is a scoring machine in junior and a playoff scoring machine. And he's gritty. I wouldn't say he's going to drop his gloves and beat the shit out of you, but he's grittier than, say, a guy, Nick Robertson, right? Who can fucking snipe. But to me, I mean, what do you need? You need guys to come in. You want forward I mean, I guess they're looking for centerman. He can play it, but I think he'll play the wing likely. I mean, I really don't know what they got planned for him. He can play center, but I'm just looking at a forward that is a big time scorer. Like someone is going to make it from that's his age this year. Why would it not be him? He's the most unbelievable scorer of his junior generation, that 4 or 5 years you're in junior. He's proven playoff. That's what the Leafs need. Now, I know the OHL playoffs is different than the NHL playoffs, but there are common denominators. There's more parallels than not. So who, you know what I mean? If not him, who? So what are we talking about? And for a guy like Robertson, if you're a Leafs fan, I don't know that you're going to see him flourish there. Like I think a guy like Michael Pezzetta is going to come in. Pezzetta, I mean, drops his gloves, plays physical, and he's probably going to play a lot more than Ryan Reeves did. I mean, I'm not saying he's taken Reeves' place, but kind of like, again, there's more parallels there than there are not. Where was I? Pezzetta. So he likes to drop the mitts. He'll get more ice time than Reeves did. I don't know if he's, Reeves, I think a lot of people would consider they'd probably having the belt, toughest guy in the league. But it was getting to the point he wasn't playing. He was sitting full games. And when he was playing, he wasn't out there that much. Love his spunk, love his career and everything he did with it. And when I ever get a chance to meet Ryan Reeves, I'll be the first one to shake his hand. But I think in this particular case, Pezzetta is going to be more useful because the Leafs they need people to stick up for themselves and they need someone to fight and they need more than one to fight. Not all the time. The game has changed like we talked about. But Pezzetta, I think, will have more of an on-ice presence in that he's just younger. It'd be like Reeves 10 years ago or some shit. You know what I mean? Like he's going to go out there. He's going to stir it up. But he can play a two-way game. He can go out there. He's a little bit faster. He's in his prime, So, and he's fairly tough. And so I'm not, again, saying that he's a better scorer than these guys. I just mean people aren't even talking about that guy. And I think he's going to challenge. I think a guy like Cowan, is going to challenge a guy like Robertson, and he might get the nod just on that slight extra bit of grit. But here's the thing about I think about Robertson, man. Robertson is a fucking great player. People forget this. A couple of years ago, man. No, a couple of years ago. I forget what year. But I know I don't even have to look it up. Robertson, I believe it was either the 18-19 or 19-20. It was one of those. But he had 55 goals in 46 games. 55 goals in 46 fucking games, man. That's, you play the whole junior season with whether he's playing the O still 70, 72. You might get 100 goals. I had 50 in junior. He had 70 games. 40 fucking 6 games, 55 goals. And that was just the most dynamic year for me. But if you look at Nick Robertson's stats, man, he's always been able to put the puck in the net no matter where the fuck he goes. And with Toronto, even on limited ice time and with everybody beaking at him and sometimes playing with guys that aren't real point producers like himself, he still had 15. I don't know what his shooting percentage is. What did he have the year before? Like 12 or 13 or so? I mean, he doesn't play much. And he had 15 goals. You're starting to get into some heat territory. The NHL 20 lands you a great multi-year contract most places. 20 is something to be said. I scored 20 goals in the NHL. That's a big deal. Danny Cleary, Darcy Tucker, of course, guys with good spunk and everything too, but Chris Nyland, some of my favorite players that didn't have 30 goals but had 20 and could be relied upon on both sides of the puck. And a guy like Robertson, I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to do it with another team. Yeah, I think what did he sign for? 1.8 for this year. I think he'll get traded. And if I'm a team that needs players or needs young players, like, I don't know, San Jose, Chicago, or a team like Columbus that's knocking on the door, right? Another guy, Werenski, people, I think he's going to go off. There's another take. I think Werenski gets 80 points again. But, a team like Columbus maybe that's on the brink that really last year, I mean, I thought for a team that wasn't expected anything, and the way they finished, I thought they finished with a lot of positivity. There's a lot going on there. There's a lot to be positive about, not quite as much as the Montreal Canadiens when you talk about a young team that's about to burst and break out, but they're there. I don't think they're quite as young as the Habs, but they're a team that's knocking on the door that might get there this year. And somewhere around the league, Nashville brought in guys that didn't work. Like Robertson, I think will go somewhere that someone can use him. And I think if it's early enough, I think he can get 25 goals on that team. Well, I know he can get it. I'm going to call that he will get it. I know he can get it. A guy that scores like that can get 30. Depends where he goes. He's young. A lot of you are laughing at me now. But didn't his brother, who's the same sort of player, at 40-odd? Sky's the limit, man. He can get over 30, get 35, 40, whatever. It depends where he goes, who he plays with. And, you know, I'm starting to grasp at straws when I say maybe 40 plus, maybe. But I know the fucking guy can get 25. He didn't barely play and he got 15, right? So anyway, I'm calling that that Cowan makes the team, is a good player on the fucking team, and that Robertson gets 25 with somebody else. And as long as we're talking about it, we just brought up Zach Werenski. I think he gets 80 points again. Look back at it. Werenski had almost 50 points a couple of years. He had almost 60 points, like 57 or 59 points just a few years ago. And then so last year, what do you have, 80 or whatever? Like, so it wasn't, people acting like that was out of nowhere. It wasn't. Look back at the stats. A couple of those years, like 50 points as a D is a lot. 82 is astronomical, or 80, whatever he had. That's like 1 percentile of players right now in their defense. But 50, it's big, and he did it multiple times. And 60 even. So I think a good team like that, that's riding the momentum, and a guy like Werenski, who seems to be literally every time he handles the puck. At the beginning of the season last year when I was watching Hudson, it seemed like maybe watching like a young PK Subban. Of course, he shoots the different way, but you know, a lot of mistakes, and you could tell something was going to be there. Something really unique was going to happen here pretty soon. And that happened with Subban, but he made a lot of mistakes. But by the end of the year, he looked more like Quinn Hughes now. And by the way, I mean Subban's first year when he first came in. Subban turned into a fucking great NHL defenseman that the Canadiens could only be lucky enough. They had the production out of Hudson or anybody else that PK gave him for those peak years. I'm just saying, Hudson early in the year looked young. And by the end of the year, he looked like some kind of savvy vet that was going backhand sauce in risky situations, and being so confident in his skill that playmaking ability was on full display. It was maximized. He didn't seem nervous at all at the end of the year. At the beginning of the year, he just seemed to make more mistakes, which is natural. I'm just pointing it out. That's all. Anyway. So there it is. Big earns coming. Brian McGrattan next week. Thanks everybody for listening to this and tuning in all summer, because outside of the odd guest, and thanks to Max Roy, and thanks to Turan Sanwith, and Wayne Primo and Brian McGrattan next week. Getting somebody in the last little while, but Derek Roy. I just haven't had many guests, but I'm glad you guys listen. And I'm really excited to do the Jason Gregor show again and get back after this ball hockey tournament. I'm going to be back to, I'm never not busy, but more of a regular schedule. So thanks a lot for continuing to tune in, even though there's no guest again this week. I love you guys. And Shoresy Season 5, we'll be dropping some news on that real soon. Go to terryryan.ca. For merch and events and all that stuff. Other than that, if you're in downtown St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador, why not drop by Trinity Pub, TJ's Pub, Rob Roy Confusion, the Martini Bar, Green Sleeves, and of course the Bull and Barrel. If you're going to go for a bite to eat, why not try Loose Tie, Blue on Water, and of course Wedgwood Cafe, who also do catering. If you want to work out, you want strength and balance for the body and mind, look no further than Ryan Power Conditioning on Rope Walk Lane. 2 locations of Mr. Lube in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. One's on Kenmont Road, one's on Torbay Road. Live, laugh, low. Carpet Factory, laying the carpet for your community. The GS Construction, laying the groundwork for your community, if that community happens to be Edmonton, Alberta. Crown Cabinets in St. John's, just because. True Hockey, take what's yours. And of course, I loves me Mugsy jeans. They're so comfortable. Be back in just a couple of days with Big Earn and more Tales with Tier.